Let's start the show by talking about my sponsor, Paloma Verde, and their new website, palomaverdecbd.com. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out for all of your CBD needs. They've got the gummies, tinctures, salves. So if you're needing anything to maybe chill you out, something to help you get mellowed out, something for your joint pain and stiffness, go over to palomaverdecbd.com and give them a check out. Carlos and Vanessa are awesome people. They run a great company. And if you enter the promo code FACTS at checkout, you'll get 25% off your order. Plus, any order over $75, you get free shipping. So, I don't know what you're waiting for. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out. Let's start the show. This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
Aren't you one of the Lions of Liberty?
I'm just the social media, or I am,
Okay.
Social media director or something. I can't remember what my official title is. But yeah, I'm just an employee. I don't actually contribute to the show itself. At least not yet. I've been trying to convince Howie Snowden that we need to do a Tuesday night conspiracy corner show. And like a weekly.
That'd be fun.
I've been trying to talk him into it, and I just can't get him to commit. Like they do the conspiracy corner semi-regularly. Like
I saw one tweet today that I'm just like, oh God, that is so true. It's like the conspiracy isn't like the pedophiles, cabal that's like running our, running all the governments of the world. It's the conspiracy is that there are good guys coming to save us. Like that's the conspiracy. I'm like, God, it hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, that's man. So
go
ahead.
That would be a really good show. That'd be excellent. I mean, that just like that. It's like, God, how do you get that in under 280 characters? Just these people have a mind that I don't get. I don't have that. I need to get it.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll type up something and I'll realize like I won't even be paying attention to the character count. I'll just be typing it up, and then when I'm done, it's like you're 180 characters over. I'm like, how did I even go that far? Like, what? I didn't think I typed that much, but I get when I go back and read through it, it's like, oh yeah, I definitely said way too much.
I know what you mean.
You and I actually had a brief debate a couple. I guess it's been maybe 2 or 3 months ago now.
I seem to remember something
because I am not. So I started out as a Republican. I was a big time Republican. I traveled in 2004 to campaign for Bush. I did all of the local campaigns in Kentucky.
How old are you, by the way?
37.
Okay, so you're you're like a good 9 years older than me. All right.
So I traveled all over the place and campaigned for local and state candidates in Kentucky for the Republican Party. I went to a Bush rally, at least one Bush rally. It might have been 2. I can't remember now. But I traveled and campaigned for Bush. I was the second youngest delegate to the Kentucky Republican State Convention that year in 2004.
Congratulations.
It was a lot of fun. But also through all of that time, and then also I now live in Indiana, and the Republican Party of Indiana is just fucking awful. And so I don't have a whole lot of faith or
that to me, if the Republicans are awful, that means to me that says they're weak, and weakness invites aggression.
The problem we have in Kentucky and Indiana is that the establishment Republicans are like my parents, and somebody with ideas like mine are way too radical, and there's no way any of them will ever get behind it and support it. So it, like with Indiana, we have a pretty solid libertarian party, and we have a good opportunity with some of the inroads that were made with the 2020 gubernatorial election and stuff like that we can start actually pushing and challenging some of these really bad Republicans that are definitely rhinos. Like we can start pushing and challenging those guys and maybe even on a lot of like local level type stuff, we can actually have impact. Whereas if we were part of the uh, Republican Party, we would just get swallowed up. Which we're actually kind of running a real time test in Gibson County, Indiana.
Which, okay, in Indiana, yeah.
So the chair for the GOP in Gibson County and the chair for the Libertarian Party in Gibson County are husband and wife.
Really?
So we're kind of
That's
running,
interesting.
yeah, we're kind of running a real time test. They both,
You're in Indiana right now?
yeah,
Alrighty.
they
Okay.
both align pretty much, uh, almost perfectly as far as like libertarian ideals and concepts go. But one of them, he remained a Republican and is the head of the GOP, and she joined the Libertarian Party and is the county chair for the LP. So we're kind of running a real time test to see which strategy.
There should be a lot of room to overlap there, to work together with.
So we can kind of see which strategy is going to work. I have concerns because the general makeup of the GOP in the state is so hardcore rhino.
Really, that surprises me.
It sucks. Like we've got about 3 state senators and not a whole lot more than that of the state house members who are like good on stuff, and most of the rest of them are it's Bush GOP. Like they suck.
Huh. That surprises me. Because America First has been, pushing a whole lot of those people, out of power and into just the commoner ranks, the way the rest of us used to be. And like because when I'm here in and I've been having lots of conversations with the people in this area because I'm in. And and I just noticed, like, particularly amongst the young people, they're far more red-pilled and based than, again, than the older counterparts. But even their older counterparts are like, this isn't working. We're fed up about this. And I mean, it's like all of them seem to be like at least a very solid majority are like, okay, we need to figure out some way to start getting these establishment guys out because it's gotten to be really critical here. Like they're ignoring, we've had 20 years of uninterrupted Republican rule, and what have we gotten for it? The state's getting more, bluer and bluer every year, and every time, and we always send them, and they're never like, they always promise to do something and they never do it. They just don't care. And it's like come to a boiling, it's practically a boiling point here. And I come in like kind of like a throw bishop, and if you know how to talk to these people as a radical libertarian, it's like they love you. It's like that like you're the most right wing among them, and it's like you're naturally going to start rising to the top and start gathering people's trust and people's approval. And I really think for communicating our libertarian positions to them, it's just a matter of how you frame it and how you frame yourself. And I'd like to start teaching other libertarians how to do that eventually, but I don't have that kind of time or bandwidth. But it's like I had this one idea, like what if we framed how we want to like kind of legalize heroin. What if instead of like framing that as legalize heroin, what if we did it as like socialize heroin? Because what has a much better track record of like death and destruction than prohibition? Socialism. It's like as long as you keep it as the like, oh no, we're not legalizing it because we approve of them, we're legalizing it because they're the enemy, and this is how we really stick it to them. And it's like I've tried that with about 3 dozen BoomerCons so far. Every last one of them's like, that's actually an excellent idea. We should really, use like full-blown Green New Deal socialism to go after the drug dealers. Because you know what? Socialism is bad. They're like hardwired to that. And there's a whole lot of just easy ways of just reword same exact policy prescription, but just change the just change how you frame it. And all of a sudden, like your more boomer cons and right leaning conservatives, they just go right along with it. As it just makes it so much easier, and you sound so much less radical. In fact, or better, you sound like the better type of radical. Like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. I kind of like that. And the it's like I think remind me, like, so what was our debate about last time? Was it the LPMC stuff, or
yeah, that was kind of what it stemmed out of. I think it was kind of on the topic of okay, yeah, I guess it was to kind of summarize it, it was that if I'm not willing to join the GOP, then I'm to an extent an enemy, which
okay, that's a little harsh.
Which I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment, but at the same time, we do have, like I said, we do have about 3 state senators who are good, and we've been able to work with them to accomplish, or we haven't necessarily been able to work with them to get anything passed, but we've been able to work with them to get stuff killed that would have been a net negative for like the ideas of liberty and freedom. So we do have here in Indiana with the LP and the way it is, we do have good inroads that we've been able to make with some of those more like legitimately conservative, libertarian ideal type Republicans. So we can work together, and I think the Mises caucus really would maybe not for an official position, but they probably wouldn't shy away from the idea of working with Republicans if it means promoting liberty. Like I don't see where you're going to work with Democrats a whole lot to promote liberty, at least not in this day and age. Maybe early 2000s Democrats who were anti-war and pro-drugs, but the current iteration of the Democratic Party is 100% statist, and I don't even know that they have strong principles on anything anymore other than like pro-state, and that's but there are opportunities to work with Republicans, but
I mean, the far left of the Democrat Party is basically communists, and the far right of their party is neocons. So it's like, that's a tough spectrum to work with. It's like everyone else is somewhere in between a neocon and a communist. Like, what do I do about that? I don't think there's not much there.
Right. And there's not a lot of common ground there.
I think my harsh words in the past was because I was still pretty butthurt about I was working with a campaign against a real Marxist, like self-described Marxist, who was in the Texas House of Representatives. He was in a 50-50 district. It was like the single most competitive district in Texas, single most purple. And it's like I had been block walking, I had been knocking on doors. I had like drive an extra like hour to get to the district because it's up to the north of me. And I had been working every single week, dedicating my weekends, walking dozens and dozens and dozens of miles, knocking on close to like 1,000 doors, and and at the very end we lost by 300 votes, and the libertarian who I knew personally as he's a more of a right wing libertarian had a margin of 3,600. And it's like, and the guy I had been campaigning for was like a normal conservative. It's like he's not quite a moderate, he's not a radical, but kind of just a normal middle of the spectrum conservative. It's like good enough. And the other guy is like, I want to pass the Green New Deal here in Texas. It's not enough to do it at federal level. We need to do it at state level too. Never mind that it's going to the havoc it would have in Houston, the energy capital of the planet. And he's like, and he wanted to raise every kind of tax, and he is a self-described Marxist. And as like, this is the guy who's still in there now by 300 votes because of the Libertarian Party, trying to steal votes from the right. And it's like,
did the Libertarian campaign like like actually actively campaign and like
Yep.
push. See that?
Yep. And I know the guy too, because it's the Paul Bilyeu. He is the husband of the current chair of the Libertarian Party. Yeah, the like everybody else resigned, and then the next woman in line kind of got the job. That's his wife. And
see, I do kind of take issue with that because like something we've even I don't know that it's been like really out loud discussed in Indiana, but we want to run a candidate for literally every open position that's going to be on the ballot in 2022. And we are not going to actually try to campaign against the ones who are good. Like, we want somebody on the ballot to show that we're here and we're for real. Mm-hmm. But some of those guys, we're not trying to push against them. We just want to have a name on the ballot to show that we've got, we're not trying to steal votes. We want the good ones to stay in, but we want to have we want to have a presence across the entirety of the state. And so in a situation like that, like if they're actively like campaigning against somebody who's good, especially somebody who's good running against somebody who's exceptionally bad, I take issue with that as well.
Yeah, and I know this guy's attitude, Paul's attitude about it is just, it's like, oh no, I really want to campaign against them both. I'm going to spoil every election because fuck the duopoly. I'm like, man, you just let a Marxist back in. You could have replaced him Marxist with a run of the mill conservative.
Okay,
it's
so
like and
on that topic, just real quick, what do you think of Shane Hazel? And because the two Republicans, the Republicans that he was running against, they're not good. So, like, I agree that it was bad that the Democrats won, but the Republicans weren't really good either. I don't know. That was tough because
I understand, because it's like at the same time, a lot of America First was like, man, fuck these guys. At the same time, it's like, I'm looking at what's coming down the road with Biden. It's like they could, the politics is so stinky the way it works that, if you had one extra Republican, they would be holding the line. But because there isn't one extra Republican, 17 of them will join the Democrats. It's like, and it's so fucking stupid that it works that way, but it does.
But now you got Joe Manchin holding the line.
I know. It's like we have, and now the future of the Republic is in Joe Manchin's hands, and it's like I feel terrified at that, because I was saying in like a few weeks before DeSantis did it, I was saying we need a real solid anti-communist curriculum in public schools, and by anti-communist I mean anything to the left of Joe Manchin. And of course, like a week later, he announces a anti-communist agenda. And I'm a Florida boy, born and raised, and you can take a Florida man out of Florida, but he's still a Florida man. And so I might be in Texas, I'm still a Florida man, and I was there for 23 years, and I go back like probably 4 or 5 times a year. So, and I still I have all my family there. But with like Shane Hazel, I think it's so stupid to have our name associated with failure and associated with being a spoiler, because it's like you're making you're associating the libertarian name with sore losers, basically, who don't do anything to help liberty. They don't liberate anything, and we just lose. And like that's the association we're getting. Whereas like if you focused on really taking winnable races, like Shane Hazel would be a good town mayor somewhere. He'd be a good city councilman somewhere. And if you just focused on winnable races instead of having like presence, it's like, because the presence you're having is a bad one. It's a bad public image, and it's like you're associating with powerlessness, being a sore loser, and like these are not associations you want to have with the libertarian name. It's an important name. That's why I kind of like what the Mises Caucus has at least said they were going to do. They haven't followed up on it yet, but they said that they were going to stop running all of these unwinnable races and focus purely on having power at the local level, because it really matters quite a lot who your school board member is, who your sheriff is, who your mayor and city councilman is. And there's like it matters who these positions of power are, because you can start nullifying even at the local level. And nullify you can, I mean, it's like your nullification powers are kind of limited, but they're still there, and they're still, and if like hey, if the Libertarian Party had control of Waco at the back in the 90s, Waco wouldn't have happened. Like the ATF would have come in and we would have said, get the fuck out, and you're not here. And you would have had all of those, women and children of that whatever cult, they wouldn't have died. And you know what? That having libertarians around to protect the people, that gives us a much better name and a much better reputation. And I wish with all my heart that the Libertarian Party would focus on the local races where they can actually win and really make a difference in people's lives and garner a good reputation, rather than the reputation they've garnered thus far, which is just loser, powerless, can't protect anybody, can't protect themselves. And, they're kind of butthurt about everything. And they just don't win. They don't win anything. It's like no one wants to associate with losers, and no one cares what they think. It's like people cared what Trump thought because everyone understood, like, this guy's a winner. And they like understood it automatically. This guy knows how to win. And he might be terrible on most issues, but he knows how to win. It's like, and so people care what he thinks. And it's like, you don't have to be right on the positions. You just have to be able to win and be able to protect people. And people want to be safe, so offer them their safety. And if you offer them their safety, and you keep and they give you power in return, you can also, while you're keeping themselves safe, give them a little extra freedom too. It's like it can be done both ways. But if you want to, I'm not here to keep you safe. I'm here to keep you free. And it's like, well, okay, that's not what they're looking for. And that, I mean, it's kind of a self-centered approach, where you're campaigning on what you want, not what they want. And, and these don't have to be mutually exclusive. And, but I really wish the MC would focus more on the local races, but they said they were going to, and so far they have not kept that up. And that's my take on Shane Hazel.
We'll see how 2022 goes. I know that in 2020, there were several MC-backed candidates in like local races that did really well or won.
Yeah.
I'm actually running for county council in my county next year.
I'm on the 2020 donor call in December. They had that exact recognition that they had a whole bunch of like state races and stuff, and U.S. National races that their candidates got slaughtered. And then they also at the same time had a whole bunch of local races where people did pretty well. And, it's like, just focus on what's winnable, and you can gain a good reputation that way. And, kind of take the Libertarian name out of the dirt that it's in right now. So if we had a Justin Campbell as a, excuse me, I misenunciated the name Campbell. And if we had a city councilman Justin, in any city council anywhere, I can tell you all automatically that's going to be a better city council than it would have been otherwise. And there's someone there to really lead and give a good voice to what the city council should do about certain actions of the higher levels of government. That's a lot. That's going to be a lot better. And if you have, like, I don't know, if you have a majority of them, which, by the way, is pretty easy, because that's something you notice when you're block walking a lot, is how fucking defenseless everyone else is. It's like, dude, this is an easy race to just walk in on. It's like that no one else is doing it. They're not campaigning. They kind of just walk in and they stay there year after year with no effort. And they put
That's kind of what I looked at with the one I'm going to run for, is she doesn't campaign. Mm-hmm. Everybody else on the council absolutely hates her, but nobody ever runs against her. So she just wins every year. Okay, that's an easy one.
These are the opponents we're up against. It's like, they're weak. And then it should invite our aggression as libertarians against them to, I'm going to take your power from you, and I'm going to work for it. And like I like when I talked to close to probably, I knocked on 1,000 doors. Usually 80% of them would be open, which was like really, really strange, because I was told it's usually like 1 in 10, but for me it was like 80%. I talked to close to 800 people, And I would ask them like, hey, have you ever seen the any other candidates come by? Like, nope, nope, nobody. You're the only guy. And I was just like, it floored me. Like, dude, this is going to be so simple. And I can't believe that as a movement we haven't just taken over all. At one time we had close to taken over the Republican Party. Back in the Ron Paul days, and we were very close to taking it over, and then we just gave up. And we got discouraged because they pulled a cheat on us. So it's just like, no shit, this is democracy. You're supposed to cheat. But
you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
yeah, I mean, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. It's democracy. Like, Moldbug says, they're all, it's water polo, they're all tugging each other's balls under the water because the ref ain't under the water. And you're supposed to. And Ve Victus, woe to the defeated. And it's like, you got discouraged for no reason. You were so close to winning and you just gave up. And if we just started taking over all of these local governments, and it's like, and really make our presence felt, because we're a small minority of the population, but because if we're the only ones working for it, we could really start punching above our weight. And if you look at like the number of libertarians in or like libertarian Republicans in like state houses, there's like 5,000 Republicans in state house office or something like that. And I forget what the amount was. I think 5,000 was like the total number of seats. But I remember I did the math earlier this year, and we're like 6 to 9% of the Republican coalition, and we are not 6 to 9% of the population.
Right.
And that should because people just don't want to work for it. Everyone else doesn't want to work for it. If you just get a few libertarians to work for it, it's like we can automatically punch way above our weight, in terms of our percent of the population. And that's really, really, that's powerful, because all you have to do is want to work for it, and you're in. That's it. You're golden. And because everyone else just doesn't want to work for it, just take it, and because it's open.
And then the people who vote see somebody that actually cares and is willing to put forth the time and the effort to work for it. And they're like, okay, I can get behind that, because that's infinitely more than what any of these other jerk offs are doing.
Yeah, by the way, I mean, that's the Rand Paul strategy, is everyone else is not working for it. They're looking like retards, and he's just there being pretty normal and about, hey, this is all really bad. Our people really don't want this. We should speak up and say something about it. And he's like golden. He's a golden boy. And DeSantis had the same exact strategy. Like, everyone else went full totalitarian, and he stayed kind of normal. It's like he basically stayed the same. It's like nothing really changed except everybody else. He stayed the same, and now he's like the front runner of the Republican movement. He's like the next Trump. It's like that's all it takes. So it's like he's like, you just have to be like kind of normal and like actually like fight. Like, you don't even have to fight very well. You don't have to, like, Rand Paul doesn't win. It's like he punches way above his weight class, sure, and he gets actually stuff done, but that's because everyone else is so weak. When you have such weak and feckless competition, it's like, well, all you have to do is kind of if you can do a little more than phone it in, you're golden. It's like, and the bar is so low. Why wouldn't we take advantage of this? And yeah, but we'll have to, I do hope that the MC realizes that there's a lot of power that they can have at the local level. And if they just stop focusing their candidates, if they just made an announcement that we're not running any state or congressional candidates anymore, we're going to have our presence felt at the local level. Instead of it being like, because literally, what is it if you're not campaigning for it? If you're just going to be on the ballot, what kind of presence is that? So it's like it's a name and a letter on the ballot. That's the presence. And it's like, when at the same time you could be like the presence that is felt actually in law at the local level. I mean, you could actually be the one of the votes or multiple of the votes at the city council making the laws and giving if you have a problem with the police and they just follow orders, like, wouldn't you want to be the guy giving orders? It's like, if they follow your orders no matter what, like, well, it's like that seems to be, it's like how hard it really begs the question, how hard is it to be the guy giving the orders? And
Right.
it's like I get that they should be moral and have a conscience every now and then, but it's like that's all true. But at the same time, it's like, so you're telling me this, whoever the mayor is and who appoints the chief of police, it's like it's really really easy to be that guy, and you're not going to try. It's like you could be the libertarian giving the orders to the police. Like, you could do a lot of good right there, and you don't. It's like it's not a perfect solution, but my God, it's really really good. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. See, we're going to derail into something else too. I don't, because I am very much a Christian, and I've got a buddy that we'll do like biblical studies every once in a while for my little show, and we'll dig into specific topics in the Bible and stuff like that. And so like I like looking at that stuff, and I am very much a Christian. I mean, I was raised that way. I've explored other stuff, and it all
Yeah,
just led me back to being even more of a Christian. And
yeah.
I don't understand the militant atheist side of the Libertarian Party. Like it's just it doesn't seem to make any sense to me from a what like
I really,
even if you think that uh, modern day Christians are a bunch of hypocrites, it doesn't it doesn't detract from
it's
what
like, why do you
Christianity
have
was
such
founded on,
animosity?
and Christianity's founding and everything that it's built around is
Mhm.
like libertarian ideas and principles. It's like
Basically, yeah. But it's like it's the animosity that I don't get it. It's like, dude, this is not that big of this has no effect on your life. And I don't know, they just have like some childhood hang up about it. And that's the way that it really comes across to me is like, dude, are you just like 17 or something like that?
right.
And it's like just the animosity that they have. It's like I don't feel about atheists this way. It's like it's not reciprocated. It's like I don't feel about Hindus or Muslims this way. And like frankly, I kind of look at the there was this video a while back of like a Texan Christian versus like a Taliban Muslim. And it's like there's a lot we have in common here. It's like we hate the commies. They've killed commies. It's like they like traditional values. They kill people for not having traditional values. That's a lot to like there. That's a little bit of a joke, but like, I was like, I
I
look at like
mean,
the
we have more in
Muslim
common than we have against each
way
other.
more than that.
You just need to.
And but then there's these atheists off to the side, and they just have this incredible hatred of people that is just not reciprocated to them. And it's like, and they have just this derisive, mocking, just mean spirit to them. And I don't get it. And it's like that. Yeah, are you so mad at God because he didn't give you that pony for your 6th birthday, or I don't know. It's that. It's I just that's the way I take it. And they just have this just this hang up, and I really feel like this is why they're libertarians, anarchists too. It's like they believe in no God, and they also believe in no government. It's like whatever it is that in our contrarian mind that makes people libertarians also makes them atheists. And there's a huge overlap there, and I don't get it. And they just seem like nuts to me. But and I see them like I call it Sky Fairy and stuff like that. And that's like, fuck you. You guys don't believe in it. You guys don't believe in love. You don't believe in anything. And I start getting pissy back with them. But they just like anyway. Man, I wish I had. We're hoping for kids. So that's we're trying. So we'll see if we can get a Rugrat around in the next 1 or 2 years. But I envy all you libertarians who have kids. I've got to
Well,
catch up and get some of my own.
good luck. I hope the best for you. They will hit once you do get a couple of them, they will hit a point where you really wish you hadn't done that. But
Yeah,
I think
I
I hear they grow out of that point eventually.
they
Mine
get to
are
that beautiful age, but between 5 and 10, where they still obey orders and they don't think too much for themselves, and then but they're also kind of respectful and kind of cute.
Yeah,
They
see,
still have some of that childhood innocence, and then they get to teenagers, and it's like, oh, hell again.
yeah, mine have all three exited that point. They're 10, 11, and 12, and we are
Oof.
we're moving into the really annoying
The
stage
terrible
of life.
teens.
They're not, I say that, they're not terrible. The girls are pretty good most of the time. They just, like, they go nonstop 100% of the time. Like, it's impossible to keep up with. And then my son he's the 12-year-old, and he's already hit that, like, teenage years mentality, and he's been tough to deal with.
Oh boy. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you were right around my age when you first had him. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
What was that?
Sean,
Like,
I was 20. So I
three
guess
in a row. Jeez, I just did the math in my head. I'm like, wow, 3 in a row. Your poor wife.
well, so the first two are by my first wife, and then
I
the
see.
number 3 is not biologically mine, but
Oh, all right. But still.
she's still mine.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. But I know I wanted to be a dad since I was like 17. I don't know. I knew really young I want to be a dad. And like I just like finally at that point, like, all right, can finally begin. And I'm sure I'll be regretting it. Like, God, 17-year-old Andrew, you were such a stupid idiot. It's like in more ways than one, I'm sure.
See, I was never all that keen on having kids, and then it kind of happened, and I think I've been a pretty decent dad. I definitely have had some failings, and I try to learn from them and grow from them and be better going forward. But I still fall back in and do some of the same stupid stuff over and over again, especially with my son, just because he takes after my brother, and
Oh boy.
my brother and I never got along real well. So he knows how to push like every button that makes me want to just body slam him.
Yeah, I'm worried about that they could that instead of taking after me and my wife, they're going to take after like either of our siblings. Because like, it's like both of us are fairly okay with our parents, but where it's like our siblings are just like, oh God. And like, I know for me, I took after like my father's one younger brother, and that was a little tough, even though they got along well. And but it's like, I know it runs, taking after that runs in the family. My brother takes after my maternal grandfather, and that's really bad. And that guy was like truly fucked up. But and so is my brother. But I'm just like, I'm worried because I know that taking after the parents is not usually the way it works, and you wish it was, but it's just not.
My daughter is 100% my clone. Like, she is.
Oh well, that's good.
She couldn't have come out any closer to me if I'd crapped her out myself. Like, she is right on. She is spot on, my kid. But yeah,
all right. So at least you're 1 for 3.
That's right. And,
although the other one doesn't quite count because it's not yours,
she's coming around. She's I've just about brainwashed her into.
Good. Your training is complete.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and something that people like think I'm crazy for. I've had, since I really started getting into all this podcast stuff back early summer of last year, I've had the kids will sit around the breakfast table with me in the morning and listen to Part of the Problem or Lions of Liberty or like
that's very healthy.
Like so Mark and Remzo Martinez do a comic book podcast, and they go a little off the rails every once in a while, and they're like, oh, we realize that some people might listen to this with their kids, and they even like specifically because they know I listen to it with my son, they're like, we get a little carried away every once in a while. I was like, he listens to Part of the Problem and everything else. Like, there's nothing that y'all are talking about on a comic book podcast that he hasn't heard infinitely worse on every other libertarian podcast that's out there that he listens to with me. Like, he'll be fine. We're trying to radicalize these kids from a young age so that they do not trust.
That's good. Get them radical young.
That's right. I want to, like, we are not in a position to homeschool right now.
That's a terrible feeling, ain't it?
More because my ex will not agree to it than anything. If we had it our way, we would absolutely do it. But because we have to deal with all of that, it's not feasible at this point. So like kind of where we are is like they're in school, and our schools aren't terrible here. Like it's rural Indiana.
It's bad influence, you know.
Right. I mean, it's rural Indiana. They're not getting a whole lot of like extreme leftist propaganda, but still they're getting,
Yeah.
the basic.
They're not getting the best that they could get. You know,
Right,
you know, these public schools are not bringing their best.
Right. And so
you know, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime. Yeah, and some of them, I'm sure, are good people. They're probably not rapists. You know, they're too young for that yet.
so
you know, middle school,
I want
so how
them
could
to.
that be?
I'm trying to indoctrinate them enough that they go to school with a healthy level of questioning and disrespect for everything that they hear and are taught while they're at school. Like, I want them to question and.
Well, what's worst about the worst thing about public schools is not what they teach; it's what they don't teach. You know,
Yeah.
It's like the devil's best propaganda. As this something C.S. Lewis says, like the devil's best propaganda is not what he teaches you. It's not the ideas he puts into your head; it's the good ideas he keeps out of your head. And I feel like that's the real function of public schools and their brainwashing is it's not too much. It's not so much what they teach you; it's what they don't. And because like conservative and libertarian ideas, they actively have to be put into your head. But if they're not, you know, you're just a default leftist. Because
Right.
I feel like leftism is the default for humanity, and you don't need to do anything. It's just you exist this way. You're a default leftist. Everyone is, and because it's just human predatory nature. But so if you don't actively socialize people and get them into at least a level where they can be a conservative and maybe a higher level where they can be, extra socialized into good libertarians, and it's like you're not gonna, it's like they're never going to get there. It's like you have to actively socialize people into radicalize them into being good, our way. Whereas like and if they never don't get anything at all from the from the public schools, well then they're just going to stay leftist. And
she's gonna hear me say this and yell at me, but my wife, when we initially met, she was much more leftist. She was she more or less was a Bernie supporter, and
oh boy.
like, and when we were dating and stuff, we didn't talk about politics. It just never came up. And we got married in June of 2016. And so then, you've got the whole run up to the Trump Hillary election. And we were watching all of that, like watching the debates and all of that. And the whole thing was just a complete shit show. And she could see that Hillary was terrible and Trump at times seemed crazy. And I loved that. Like I want our politicians to be as crazy as possible.
Like, give me the shit show. I love it.
Yeah.
At least make it entertaining.
I want to, at least make it entertaining. Like, don't be boring. If you're gonna be terrible, at least don't be boring. And
exactly.
So it was fun. But at the same time, like, I'm still very libertarian. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so everything that she's saying is complete bullshit, but also a lot of what he's saying is kind of bullshit. But then there is some truth to what he's saying, and he may not get exactly at it. So like I'm looking at all this stuff and like explaining, and now she's like full, like hardcore ANCAP, like burn the whole thing down and start over again. Like, so 5 years of spending time around me and hearing all of these ideas, and like she's fully sold into it. And it just, but people aren't exposed to it on a regular basis unless there's somebody exposing them to it, is the problem. Because like you said, this is not the mainstream ideology. Like, this is something that actively gets suppressed.
But I really feel like just human nature is naturally leftist, and if you don't it's like we're animals by nature. Leftism is just the ideology of being an animal. It's just a might makes right predatory thing. And like, if you don't socialize people out of that and teach them how to be productive and, law-abiding citizens, then, it's kind of like math. If you don't teach people math, they're not going to know it. If you don't teach people how to read, they're not going to know it. And these are all part of being, socialized into a, good human, or like, instead of just an animal. And if you don't actively socialize people out, and give them a real sociability education, and try to teach them how to not have these antisocial behaviors that the left promotes on people, It's like they're never going to know it, and it's like, our stuff has to be taught. Conservatism has to be taught. Libertarianism has to be taught, and they're not naturally occurring. We spent hundreds of thousands of years as just primates, and it's like millions. I'm sure millions before that is something else that was also predatory, and it's just that's our nature. And this whole production thing is really, really new to us. Like, even like, I mean, most of us were just farmers for all of our existence, and then like 150 years ago we got something different. So this is like 3 or 4 generations in. This is all really, really new for us, and we have to actively teach it to people, because this did not occur naturally. It was very artificial.
Right. Everything about the way we currently live is in no way natural. It's a product of generations.
I worry about that, with my future kids. It's like, how am I going to be able to teach them all of this when, it's like so much of the time is taken away by these, public schools. So I'm just like, I'm worried, like, how am we going to afford, like, I don't know, God help us, a private school, because, my wife and I are both going to be working. We're not going to have time to homeschool them. And but it's like we're hoping for a private school, but man, I don't want to put them in a public school. That would just be, that terrifies me. I don't even have kids yet. I don't know how you do it.
That's why I run my own home indoctrination program.
Good.
We've got a big garden, and we've got goats and chickens, and
congratulations.
They listen
the real
to
Indiana lifestyle. Yeah.
They listen to all the libertarian podcasts with me, and like they get exposed to all of these ideas on a daily basis. So they have they at least they get some counter to what they get from school.